Howdy, howdy everyone. Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. It's a beautiful day in the garage today, and today is paint day. We're going to paint this Kia Optima. I think I've went over a few things that we've done to it, but let's take a look at it. We went ahead and repaired the door on this. It had some damage on this dog leg, and then the door had another dent back here. It was pretty significant damage on the dog leg. We had to pull it out. It had some damage inside the wheel well that we repaired. Today we're going to paint this. We're going to paint this door and this quarter panel. Now, it is a little bit of a tight blend here, but I'm going to share with you how we're going to take care of that. We also have this rocker molding we need to paint. This is going to be a two-tone black, gloss black, and blue color. So this is going to go blue, and then this is going to go black. We'll paint it blue first, and then tomorrow we'll do the black. This is a beautiful looking color. I really like this color. B2R is the coat on this Kia color. Good looking blue there, and it'll be fun to paint. Let's start by masking this off. Of course, we're going to open up the doors first, and we mask from the inside out. We've already prepped this, washed it, but what we're going to do is run foam tape inside this edge. I've removed the seal on this door because this seal comes right up to the edge of this door and it just kind of gets in the way. So we removed it. We'll foam tape this. This had some damage inside this jamb, so we repaired that and we painted it. We also painted inside this door here. Let's start by masking this off. Once we've masked off the door jambs with the foam tape, we'll shut the doors and then we'll mask off the perimeter of the panels that we're painting. Now we'll use a combination of 1.5 inch tape and 3/4 inch tape to get this done. All right, we're going to use this perforated trend masking tape. This has a hard edge here. It's firm, so you can slide that underneath the seal, peel this back, and then you pull it a little bit and tape it down. What this tape does is it lifts that seal away from the body, so when you spray your clear coat, the clear coat's going to get underneath that seal. Then it's going to be less likely to peel down the road. We'll finish up taping up the perimeter, and then what we'll do is we'll cover the vehicle with plastic, and then we use a razor blade to cut out the areas that we'll be painting, and we tape that plastic down to the body of the vehicle. So as you've seen, we've got this all taped up. I went ahead and put a light coat of sealer on this just to make it a little bit more uniform. I'm going to tack rag this off because we got a little sealer dust because we got a pretty tight blend right here, but I'll show you how we're going to achieve a good transition from the new color to the old. We went ahead and put some adhesion promoter, wiped this all down, put some adhesion promoter on this, and then we sealed this as well. So we'll tack this off as well before we apply our first coat of base, which I'm getting ready to do right now. So let's mix up some color. In fact, I already have some color mixed up here. This is what was left over from yesterday, so we'll do that first. The color we're using today is the Nascent XL. There's the code B2R for the base coat and clear coat. I do use two different guns for that. So these are my clear guns here, Iwata, Segola, and then the R500. And then these two guns I use for base. This is the R500 as well. And then this is the R500, Eastwood R500. But we use those for base, and then these are used for clear coat. When we're blending this door, we're gonna blend it out in this direction. So we're not gonna go this way at all. So I'm gonna tack rag this off, and then we'll put a coat painting it this direction, cover the primered areas. And then once we get that covered, we'll worry about the transition here, the blend. The setting I like for spraying base coat with this R500 is 24 PSI. My fan pattern I have narrowed a 1/4 turn back from wide open. And then as far as my fluid volume, I'll start with 2 turns out from closed. If I feel I need more material coming out of the gun, I'll bump that up to 2.5 or 3 turns out from closed. A couple tips here when you're applying your base coat. I would start with a lighter coat just to introduce that paint to the surface of the panel. Even though you clean it and you prep it and you get it all ready, sometimes there are different reactions that can happen if you put a paint on too wet right from the get-go. So dust on a first coat, it's not going to hurt anything. Let it flash off for 15 minutes and then go ahead and you can put the second coat on a little heavier. You want it to be medium to wet. Your speed and your distance affect how your base coat and your clear coat lay down on the panel. Now when you're applying base, you want to overlap 80%. I like to spray about 4 to 6 inches away. You also want to have a consistent speed and a consistent distance from the panel, whatever that may be. Here my focus is just to get that primer covered so it's not transparent. Then we'll talk about how we blend this out so we get a good transition in that base coat. Another tip for beginners, when you're painting, never pull your trigger unless your gun is moving. Always start your pass before you start pulling that trigger. If you remember that, you'll be golden. This is up 2 to 1. Okay, so this primer is basically covered now, so now we're going to think about our blend. So after we let this final coat flash off, we're going to tack rag it off. It's a good time to inspect your panel. Make sure you don't have any dust in your base coat that you need to lightly sand out. Now I'm going to tack this clean. If I see any dust particles, what I can do is take some fine sandpaper, like some 1000 grit, and lightly sand those out before I put my final coat on. This is going to give you a cleaner job when you apply your clear coat. We've already basically started our blend just by covering those primered areas, because some of that overspray is going to start your blend for you. But in order to get a perfect blend, what we want to do is we want to move back a couple inches from the panel, and then we just want to put a light coat out into the rest of the panel. Now sometimes the first coat of my blend I might have a medium coat, because you don't want to get it too dry and you don't want to do too many drop coats. If you get it too dry, you're going to cause sand piling, which is a roughness in your surface of your base, and you want that to be silky smooth before you lay down your clear coat. Here I'm going to do my final drop coat. You'll see me move back from the panel a little bit, and I'll do it in kind of like an X pattern. So I'll paint in kind of like an X pattern and just put a light coat over that blend area. And that's all you need. That's it. Okay, this mixes up 4 to 1. We're using the Spot Panel Clear Coat by Upol. 4 to 1, we'll find our 4 to 1 mixing ratio right here at the bottom. We're going to do up to the 4. Two and a half turns out from close, so we turn it all the way in, and then we turn it 2.5 turns out. Fan pattern is wide open. My air pressure, I'm going to set at 30 psi. I'm not going to start off pulling the trigger all the way. Halfway. Now I'm starting off with a medium to wet coat on the first coat of clear coat, but it doesn't hurt anything to put a light coat of clear on first. This is going to, just like base coat, it's going to introduce that product to the surface. So if there's any kind of contaminants on that panel and there's a reaction, you can let it flash off, and it's going to be easier to cover and to correct. The gun I'm using here today for clear coat is the aeropro A610. This is a low volume, low pressure paint gun. It's basically designed to consume very little air. It consumes about 3.5 to 3.9 CFMs of air. And if you have a small compressor, like a 30-gallon tank, something that produces about 6 CFMs, you can paint an entire vehicle with this gun without any fluctuation or very little fluctuation in your air pressure, which is going to give you better results when you're spraying clear coat. So it's a great gun for hobbyists or someone working out of their garage. It produces less overspray, it uses less materials, and basically less air. So I'll have links to this in the description for this gun and all the products I use here today. That's good. We're going to let that sit. Let it flash off nice. And then we'll slick it out on the second coat. It's a little bit, has a couple little dry areas, but right there's a little dry. I'm not worried about that. All right. It's definitely ready for the second coat. We're going to hit it just a little bit harder, but we're not going to get crazy with it because we don't want to run it in this cold weather. I did mention the temperature. It was 55 degrees in the shop today when I sprayed this clear coat. So I did use a standard activator, just help it to cure just a little bit quicker. But that brings up a good point that you need to remember if you're new to clearing or painting, you want to use the proper reducer or activator for the temperature you're spraying in. This is very important, especially on hot days. You want to make sure you're using a slow reducer. There's a lot of information I can give you here about how to spray clear coat. I'll give you a few different tips and tricks, but if you're interested in getting the best results possible on your clear coat, check out some of my videos that are devoted specifically to this topic. The main thing I want you to understand is that your speed and your distance from the panel will affect your clear coat finish. So understanding how air pressure and fluid volume work together to atomize that clear coat is key. Once you understand that, you can make adjustments just by changing your speed and your distance to your panel. For instance, on this coat, I told you I wanted to hit it a little bit harder, get a little bit slicker finish. Now, the way I'm achieving that is I'm not adjusting my gun at all. I didn't adjust my pressure, I didn't adjust my fluid volume. All I did is adjust my speed and my distance. So I'm spraying a little bit closer to the panel. That's going to give me more material on that panel. Now, because I'm spraying a little bit closer, I have to speed up just a little bit because I don't want to run it. So if you try some different test panels and try changing your distance and your speed, leave your gun settings the same, but just try and change your speed and your distance, you'll see how that clear coat is affected. And it'll make you a better painter. After you have your gun set up for clear coat where you feel comfortable, you want to make sure you have a consistent speed and distance on the panel when you apply a coat of clear. You want to wait 10 to 15 minutes in between coats. It needs proper flash time before you apply your second coat. When you're applying clear coat, you want to overlap your previous pass by 75 to 80%. And the other thing I mentioned before is you always want your gun moving when you pull or let off that trigger. Overall, I'm very happy with how this Kia repair turned out. The bodywork looks great. The color match is right on, and the blend looks good as well. The clear coat has the same texture as the rest of the vehicle, so I'm happy with that. We'll cut and buff those little dust particles out, and this vehicle will be ready for the customer. Listen, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did or have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you want to learn more about paint and body repair, you can check out one of these videos now. And we'll see you next time on Garage Noise.